Okay, let's try this again. This is crazy. Mad sweaty out here. It's damn near 90 degrees. Oh, I think yeah, okay, I can bring you in now. Okay. It's about to bring you in, Asia.
You're right. It was on the phone.
Okay, yo, what happened? What'd you do?
The
You on your
button
phone or
was
you
up
on?
there when I exited out of the live on my laptop and just went on my phone.
Oh, okay.
And then I was
Probably
going
because
on
you
the
was on
old
both.
live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm glad we had a chance to coordinate our schedules so that we can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I see
Um,
myself.
it's dope, right?
Yeah. What? My
Yeah.
friends can see this too? That's crazy.
Yup.
Hi, Devon.
Yeah. Huh?
Devon, Hyson, Toya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's quite a few people, and I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about your educational career, because I work with a lot of different youth, and it's often that I come in contact with 11th and 12th graders where I'm asking them, what do they want to do once they graduate high school, and some of them would say stuff like, I want to play professional sports, and then I ask them like, yo, did you take your SAT or anything like that, and they'd be like, well, what is that?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then sometimes I even talk to their parents and ask them about it, and the parents won't even know what an SAT is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I come in contact with a lot of youth that's just generally unprepared for a career
Yeah.
following their education. You know what I'm saying? So
A
I
lot of
just wanted to
people, a
build with
lot
you a
of,
little bit.
like I'm noticing that a lot too. Like when I first started preparing to go to college, I want to say I was thinking about it starting when I was a freshman, and I probably started like actually preparing when I was a sophomore. And then you don't
Uh huh.
apply until you're a junior. But a lot of times, kids or students now in high school, they don't really start thinking about it until they are a junior. Like I took my SAT twice, and I think Aziza took the ACT and the SAT. A lot of people I
Yeah.
know took it multiple times because they take the highest score. A lot of kids don't even know that you could take it multiple times. And it's
Yeah.
also a money issue. A lot of kids feel like they can't keep paying for it. I think it was like $50 when I was doing it. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think it comes from like what they're surrounded with in the home and what kind of motivations they have. Because you and mommy always put that starting from long before high school. Yeah, long before high school, you and mommy always put that pressure on us. And sometimes it's a good pressure, sometimes it's a bad pressure. But I think that the pressure was good in our sense that it got a fire under our butt and we started preparing ourselves starting when we first
Yeah.
got into high school.
Yeah. Yo, so when you say preparing, what's some things you talking about? Like, how do you prepare?
What I did was, I was just talking to Ariana about this too. What I did was, I started to do my research on schools. So I had an Excel spreadsheet, or you can do a Word document if you don't do Excel. But I literally, like, even like looking up things on the websites to the schools, like in terms of requirements. Um,
Yeah.
Also looking up YouTube videos. I went to a HBCU, so I looked up YouTube videos to see which school I wanted to go to. A lot of people do like vlogs and stuff like that where they show how it really is. Um,
Yeah.
so like when I was a freshman, I was more so just compiling a list of schools. I was more so preparing to take. I think I took my first SAT when I was a sophomore. So I did like an
Uh-huh.
SAT prep course. I had the book and stuff like that, and I was studying vocabulary and that stuff starting sophomore year, as well as seeing which requirements I needed for which schools. So if some schools need 2 essays, some need one, some need a certain GPA, some need a certain SAT score. So sophomore
Yeah.
year was more focused on like the technicalities. That way when junior year came around, it was just I'm ready to apply. I'm ready to submit the applications. I think I took my SAT again my junior year, but
Word.
by the time junior year was starting, like in August, September, I was already getting my application materials ready.
Word.
So I'd
Yeah.
say I was just telling Ariana this in order to like you can want to go to college all you want, but I think that it's important to have a list of schools that you want to look at in depth and hope possibly visit those schools if you are in the area or like try to talk to representatives at the schools. Um, yeah.
Word. Yo. So are you saying like schools that kind of like offer whatever you want to do, or like degree program you want to go into, or
Yeah.
career field?
Yeah, every school doesn't offer every degree. So you have to, that's one of the main things you have to do is you have to look and see what degree programs they offer. Um, I went in as, well, when I first went into Howard, I was a psychology major, criminal justice minor, but I ended up
Uh
switching it
huh.
around to criminal justice major, psychology minor. A lot of schools take psychology. There was this school in Florida I was looking at that was specifically tailored to what I'm getting my graduate degree in, forensic psychology. A lot of
Yeah.
schools don't offer a forensic psychology undergraduate program, but a
Uh.
lot of people like for nursing and stuff like that, I don't want to get my facts wrong. I don't think some schools have like good nursing programs. Um, so it's not just looking at if they offer the degree. A lot of times you want to look at like what resources they have for those degrees because a lot of schools, HBCUs in particular, some departments are like really, really good. Like at Howard, we have a good School of Business program and um, School of Communications and stuff like that. But there are also some degrees that are a little, some people I know who studied like engineering and math and stuff like that who kind of struggle with the resources that the school was able to like give to them.
Mm. Mm.
I didn't have a
Yo.
problem, but some did.
Yo. So at what point did you decide to go into the forensic psychology? What at what point when you was like, yo, this is what I want to do?
Um, that was before I went to. That was before I even got to Howard. Um,
Mm.
I think it just always interested me. Um, I know this is bad, but just from like it started off from watching TV shows like Law and Order, Criminal Minds, like just looking at those. And when I was real young, like when I used to sit with Nana, be with Nana all the time, we didn't watch cartoons and stuff. We watched America's Most Wanted, Law and Order. Like me and Nana used to sit and watch crime shows. And even growing up like middle school, we would just sit and watch and try to figure out who did it before the show said it. So I
Uh,
think that I always had an interest in it. But once I started to do, so at first I wanted to do forensic science. Then I took chemistry in high school and I figured that science was not, I wasn't really a chemistry person. And in order to do forensic science, you collected evidence, you doing like, that's more of the scientific part. And I realized
yeah.
I wasn't really interested in that. So then I started to do research on like different branches of like the criminal justice field because there's a lot. And I came across forensic psychology, which deals more with the mind. And I thought that was really interesting to try to gain an understanding of why people do things, what's going through their mind before, during, and after. So I thought that
Hmm.
like really just started to interest me. And then after I did that research, when I was in high school, I would have the opportunity to pick topics for like a paper or a project and stuff like that. I remember one of the first projects that I did in high school, I focused it around Jeffrey Dahmer. And
Uh-huh.
he, the way he operated in itself was just like, it's crazy, it's scary, but it's also very interesting because you gain an understanding of how people can do things such as kill somebody, uh, rape somebody, or whatever the case may be, and not really feel empathy for it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, because in order for a person to not have, and I'm a very emotional person, a lot of people, majority of the people on this earth are very in touch with their emotions, but there are some people out here who really can just do something and genuinely not feel bad about it at all. And I thought
Mm.
that that was crazy and interesting. Like, is it a chemical imbalance in the mind or in the brain? Is it more like, then you get the nature versus nurture argument? um is it more of the way they were brought up, or is it more of just whatever deformity or whatever discrepancy in the structure of their brain that
Mm.
explains that? um
Mm.
yeah, and it's a little bit of both too. So like,
Uh-huh.
there, I forget the name of the book, but there's this guy, so they've been doing a lot of neuropsychological research, and
Hmm.
a lot of psychopaths, there is a way to tell, like there is a way in the brain to like see the discrepancy, like the difference between a psychopath's brain and a non-psychopath's brain. I don't want to say regular person. um there is a discrepancy there, but everyone who has those qualities in their brain doesn't go on to commit violent acts. A lot of them actually run the stock market. A lot of them are
Yeah.
CEOs of businesses and stuff like that. They just don't have that violent tendency. So I think it's
Uh,
really cool. There's a lot of research still to be done.
yeah.
We learn something
Yeah.
new every day.
Word. Yo, so did you get into that particularly towards the end of your your graduate year, your undergraduate year at Howard? So once you got into your program, did you get into to all of those kind of sciences?
Yeah, well, not in depth. Like when I was at Howard, it was more so focusing on like the legal part and the criminal justice system part. It wasn't until I got to grad school that um it became more tailored, because when I was at Howard, it was very broad. Like I was a criminal justice major, psychology minor, so the things we were learning weren't about like, when we were learning about the brain, it wasn't tailored to people who have these psychopathic or violent tendencies. It was just psychology of the brain, like the child and stuff. Like it was just very broad. So
Okay.
I got interested in it, and I would kind of do my own research on the side, and I think that's what led me to ultimately enroll in a graduate program, because
Hmm.
it's more tailored to what you're actually interested in. Um, you learn more specifically about what you actually want to study rather than the broad scale of things.
Mm. So what are some of your experiences now, like in graduate school? Like what's some of the things you're doing in that particular field?
Well, right now I'm a forensic and legal psychology major in my graduate
Hmm.
program, and my concentration is in intelligence studies. So I kind of, yeah, I'm kind of looking at like I do the like the DSM-5 and stuff like that in like my general courses. Um,
Hmm.
and then my intelligence courses are more focused on like terrorism, national security issues, and stuff like that. And sometimes we kind of talk about the psychology of terrorism and stuff, but there is some research out, but there's not enough research out to determine all of that
Mm.
right now. Um, like right now, I'm taking 3 classes and my internship. Um, Contemporary terrorism, intelligence analysis too, and then legal and investigative psych. So some of it is more on the legal side, some of it is more on the clinical side, and some of it is more on the national security side. So I'm kind of
Mm.
getting like a taste of, with this degree, how broad everything, like how
Mm.
broad this career field is, because you can literally apply psychology to anything. Well,
Mm.
most
Hmm.
things, all things, I would
Hmm.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your internship, what's some of the things that you can actually share in
Um,
terms of your internship? Like what is that?
I am interning at a research facility, um, funded by, well, as of now, it's funded by the Department of Homeland Security, held at the University of Maryland. But I think that the funding is about to be up or something. So the general program is called the National Consortium for the Studies of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism. Within the
Mm.
program, they have numerous different projects that the interns work on. So we're all in my intern group. I think there's 8 of us, um, but there's like, I want to say, uh, over 100 interns, and we're all split up into different
Or
sections. My
yo,
specific
what
section,
percentage of them? What
um,
percentage of them is black? Would you say?
there is probably about 5 of us, maybe 4. Yeah,
Okay.
in the entire
Okay.
program.
Okay. Out of the 4 or 5, who's black? Black. I ain't talking about like, you know what I mean? Like some people trying to assimilate and be
Yeah,
white.
I
I'm
would
talking about black.
say
Black.
me and this other girl.
Oh wow.
I was talking to her during orientation. She's the president of the NAACP chapter at her school. I forget which school it is. Um, she comes in with her hair wrap. She's in the communications department. She's a communications major. She's
Okay.
working there. I haven't really
Mm.
spoken depth to the other ones because we're all
Yeah.
separated basically. I'm the
Uh-huh.
only African American one in my specific uh, intern group.
Uh,
We have
yeah.
one girl, I don't even want to. She's lived in Egypt for a little while. She's lived in the Middle East for a little while. She's fluent in Arabic. I don't know what her exact nationality is, but she's not white.
Uh-huh. Damn. So I have they we had built last time I was talking about the black identity extremist
Oh, yeah.
category or whatever that they have going on. Is that something that y'all have covered yet?
No, most of the people we've looked at um, have been white supremacists or either
Uh,
white supremacists or anti-LGBT. So we haven't even, I just got more of my cases today, but we haven't even coded anybody. So yeah, we're focusing on like hate crimes right now. We haven't even coded anybody that is black or Middle Eastern, Muslim, Arab, whatever you like. Literally everyone I've looked at so far is was probably a part of a white supremacist group.
Homegrown white folks.
Yeah. uh
Damn. So in terms of just a journey like that, having that type of career path, what's some of the things that you would encourage younger people to have in addition to like what you were saying about preparation? How do you get your head right to go into that? You know what I mean? What's some of the
yeah.
qualities that a person should have in order to apply themselves properly in order to be successful in those type of undertakings?
Um, I think being organized is a top thing. Organized,
Hmm.
managing your time. Um,
Hmm.
Also just being like motivated, like not even motivated by anybody else. Like
Yeah.
you have to be motivated yourself. Like it can't be
Yeah.
your family or like your family and your friends. Yeah, they can motivate you, but you have to find something that you're passionate enough about that you want to get yourself there. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of like what I want to do, you kind of got to be like transparent. Like
Mm.
you have to be as objective as possible and try to see things not only from your point of view but from every other point of view possible.
Mm. What you mean by that?
So like when
What's an
you're like
example?
working intelligence, you can't like in the intelligence community. Well, I'm not in the intelligence community, but from what I've learned in my classes, like if you come in with like a bias or a subjective perspective, you probably won't get the best analytical, like it's all about critical thinking and being analytic. So you won't be able to get the best possible product, analytic product, if you are tunnel vision, if you, so like the difference between like an intelligent person and a lawyer makes up their mind and they basically work on a confirmation bias. So they're basically trying to get as many facts as they can to prove what they already want to be known. The intelligence
Hmm.
people, they have to basically get as many facts as possible and then try to create a picture from those facts, but they can't, you're not creating one picture. Like you have to consider every possibility. You can't just knock out one possibility, because then if it does happen, then you aren't prepared for that because you didn't focus on that. So you kind of
Yeah.
got to like come in with like an open mind and be very like, you can, like you can't avoid having biases, but you have to have the least amount of biases possible.
Mm, mm. So, for example, if you're profiling somebody like um, Donald Trump, if you profiling him, you just have to get whatever facts are whatever you can validate as facts. But regardless of how you personally feel about this dude,
Yep.
you're gonna if you're gonna be objective and you're gonna be a scientist about it, you just have to get all of the facts
Yeah.
in order to get a profile of
Yeah, because if you do have a
them.
bias or something, then your analytic product is going to, it's going to be weaker than it would be if you were as objective as possible. So like
Mm,
even if you don't agree with somebody or if you don't like what someone stands for, you still have to gather all the facts and try to create a picture. um
mm,
what else was I going to say?
mm.
I forgot.
Yo, so in terms of the process of creating a profile, is there like a standard amount of time that like if a person is gathering intelligence and creating a profile on a person, or can that last for years? Like
um
is you know?
it can all, like you mean like can it develop,
Yeah, like
like
is
can it
if
change?
like say you yeah, say you opened up a file on somebody, you wanted to start profiling them and gathering intelligence. Does then does is there a certain set amount of time that a person works, or is it like this is just open until I say it's done? You know what I mean? Like,
um I think that, well, I think that it does develop over time just because people change over time regardless. I don't think they would like keep it open, like let's just, I don't think they would expect to like build on it consistently. But I do think that they always leave a little leeway because people do change, mentally, physically, emotionally, depending on
hmm
whatever their circumstance is. Also, you can come across like new information way later. So, like,
hmm
if someone molested a child or whatever like that, it you can come across some information 20 years from then that tells you that, oh, they were molested as a child too. So like that changes the entire perspective of what you thought
yeah,
about them. Or like, I mean, they're still a
yeah,
child molester, but like you got to take into
yeah,
consideration this new information, and then that ultimately changes the perception of this person that you built 20 years ago.
yeah. Yo, so your internship that you did when you were at Howard, how is that related to what you're doing now in graduate school with the intelligence program?
um Well, I would say the only way it kind of connects is the evidence collection. So when I was working with the PDF public defender service, I would go to people's houses, take statements. I would go to the jail and talk to clients and do all of that. So like I think that so I was working in the parole division, and basically what our job was to try to get as much support and as many facts in order to get our client the least amount of time possible in jail, hopefully like getting
Mm,
them out on parole. So my
mm,
we were ultimately supposed to do, gather statements, to see if we could stumble across something that would get in favor of our client. Um, See if we can get letters of support from family. I know we went to like some churches and places of employment sometimes to try to get people to write letters of support, medical records, whether there was like a mental health issue or whatever the case may have been. Um,
Hmm.
so I feel like it was the same in the sense that we were trying to gather as much information as we could to uh, try to figure out the like what the next steps are that we should take.
Mm. Mm. Do you find that there's enough of our people working in that particular field, or should there be more?
I think there's definitely. I feel like, well, even just like in all most of the environments that I have interned in, I've probably been one of the few African Americans. A lot of people don't really like, even when I like tell people like, or when I was at Howard and I would tell people, oh, I'm a criminal justice major, blah blah blah, like they kind of look at me funny. Or if I say, oh yeah, I want to work so and so in this government agency, like people look at me funny, like why you want to do that. And I think they're, because of the disconnect, I know there is a disconnect between like law enforcement and the African American community, but because of that disconnect, we aren't getting a lot of African American people who actually are into law enforcement, want to do law enforcement, or if they are like trying to pursue it, um, other people might look at them kind of sideways, like, why are you doing that? And I think it is important to have a lot of, I think it is important to have African American people in law enforcement, because you can't really like motivate or create change if you don't want to, like, you got to get behind it. Like you can't just try
Mm.
to, like, you can try to motivate change from like the front lines, but if we have more people behind it, then we could probably motivate change even faster, or even more, try to make things better. I'm not saying that
Hmm.
I don't want to work in law enforcement, but I'm just saying, like,
Hmm.
I've had this experience, like every time I tell somebody what I want to do or what I studied, they look at me sideways.
Mm. I think too that they may not know um, the capacity of having a degree in that particular career path, what you are capable of doing.
Yeah.
Like you don't just have to be in law enforcement. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
a person that has a history degree. That doesn't mean you just got to be a professor.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You can do a lot of different things with that type of degree.
Mhm.
You know? I know at one point you wanted to go into law, be a lawyer. Um, and
At what
what
point?
is, yeah, yeah, yeah. So what, why did you go into a different direction as opposed to law? What was more attractive about what you're doing now as opposed to just being like a lawyer?
This is more like, I feel like this is like more developing. Like I feel like the law, I feel like society, or like just societal standards move faster than the law. So like we can have
Mm,
like law, the law is always catching up to the things that are happening. Like if you're doing research and stuff like that, like
wow.
you're actively like trying to figure out things, you're actively researching, you're actively trying to develop new standards, and then the law changes. The law is a lot
Whoa.
of reading what happened 50, 70 years ago, reading old cases, and then you got to
Wow.
do all this legislation. It's just a lot of like catch up to me, and I didn't really
Wow.
like
Yo,
that.
yo, that's deep what you said because it's the exact same way with technology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, everything and it grows exponentially to the point where, like you're saying, law and legislation always has to catch up
Mhm.
to those new different inventions
You know
or
what I mean?
the different things that are coming out of technology. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is you want to be on the front line when it comes to manifesting change in the society, as opposed to not being on that front line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, Yeah, one of my viewers,
Yeah, it is. It's easy to get into
enriched.
cyber. Like if you're like cybersecurity or like just any kind of specialty with like computers or any kind of the dark net or anything, it's real easy. Well, it's not. I mean, you gotta pass the background check and stuff, but
Yeah,
it's they're looking for a lot of cyber people right now. So
word.
yeah.
Yo, I know you got to go pick up Aziza in a minute or drop something off to her, but before you go, um, what's some things that you can share with young girls, young women in particular, when it comes to just being like, focused and successful in their undertakings?
um. Hmm. I would say do what you want to do, because like a lot of people, I know we're in 2018, but a lot of people have like standards for women. So like if a woman says, "Oh, I want to be this. I want to for example, I want to be a firefighter." People are going to ask questions like, "Why do you want to do that?" So like I think there's still a lot of barriers for women. Even me like
Mhm.
trying to do law enforcement, like people don't, some people, not all people, some people don't think it's possible for a woman. So I would, and then they suggest like, oh, things like nursing and stuff. It's nothing wrong with nursing, but like if you really have a passion or if you're really interested in something, then I would say do that. Even like Aziza doing chemistry and stuff, like we
Mhm.
don't, like we have female scientists, but like when you say the word scientist, a lot of people are thinking of a male. When you say cop, a lot of people are thinking of a male. So like I think there are a lot of barriers that women think they can't really do things just because it's not a standard for women. um
Mhm.
I would also say don't get caught up in like stuff like, so like when I was like 15 and 16, stuff would happen and I would think it's the end of the world, even now, like whoever, like little cousins and stuff, like if they got a boyfriend and stuff like that, that's their entire world. Like no, there's other stuff to focus on than that, because 9 times out of 10, I don't know anybody who is, well, there probably are some people out there, but I don't know anybody who is still with their high school boyfriend or like when they were 14, 15, 16 years old. So like don't let that kind of stuff hold you back either. Like a lot of a lot of guys who I like might have had a crush on or dated or whatever when I was in high school, they still doing the same thing they've been doing.
A lot.
Maybe except for like one. Maybe like one is not, but like a lot of people, like a lot of times, like a lot of teenagers, they kind of get like held back into their present. Like they don't think
Mm.
about the future, like they don't want to see the future, like they just want to, oh, go to this house party and, oh, I'm about to do this, I'm about to run the streets, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's cool then, but when you turn 18 and up and you an adult now, like you still going to be running the streets, you still going to be uh being a waitress or working at Walmart or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's still money, but like you got to set some goals for yourself because life waits for no one. um
Mm.
I would also say start early. Don't wait until like your junior year to start looking at college. Like by the time your junior
Yeah.
year comes around, you should have your application materials like started or almost finished. Um, I would say thoroughly research what you want to do in terms of career. Maybe go online, watch YouTube videos, look at forums and stuff like that, so you can get a clear understanding of what you're trying to get into, as well as doing research on. I do research on everything. I do research on jobs. I do research on areas. Like if I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
this job is in Atlanta, I'm not just going to pick up and move to Atlanta. Like, I mean, if they offer me a job, probably, but like, I'm going to do research in certain areas. So I know that I want to live near a city. I don't want to live in the country. But I know that for
Mhm.
myself. But if you just not doing research and not educating yourself, then you're going to end up unhappy because you're not going to know what you're getting yourself into career wise,
Mhm.
living wise, or whatever the case may be. school
Mm-hmm.
wise. I know a lot of people who thought that Howard was a place for them, and then they were completely miserable. I know a
Mm.
lot of people who got jobs after Howard and were completely miserable with the jobs and where they were living at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing. And I think we should do this again another time. I'm gonna ask people some other questions that they may have for you,
Mhm.
more specifically. But I just wanted to get an opportunity just for you to share some of your story for my viewers so that they get an opportunity to get it directly from you because I know they see me posting stuff about you and Aziza,
So you gonna
but I
do
wanted to
Aziza
just get
next?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was supposed to on the weekend, but she was in Medina, she was in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, she
But
was.
yeah, so I gotta see when is a good time to coordinate with her so I could talk to her a little bit too. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
She about to
But
study.
I
I just
appreciate
sent her. Oh, I have Oh wait, you. I have GRE materials, but none of them are probably looking at the GRE because they're
what's
going to
that?
high school, right? The GRE is the test that you have to take to get into grad school. I just sent
Oh,
Aziza
okay.
my strategy study guides and vocab list earlier. That's why I thought of it. But most of the kids that you dealing with are
Wow.
doing like regular college and high school.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Dang. That's even a jewel in itself by you saying that you was sending her that information
Yeah,
so she can prepare. You know what I mean? That's normal
yeah. I
to
have one
y'all.
more
You know what
thing.
I mean?
So you
Okay.
can, when you go in or when you're applying for college, you can take the SAT or the SAT or the ACT. The ACT from every I didn't take it, but everyone I know said the ACT was easier to study for and easier to take. So if you have the opportunity, I would take the ACT. You could take the SAT too, but I would also try to take the ACT. A lot of people I know who took the ACT got higher scores than they did when they did the SAT. And I would also
Mm.
try to take the test at least twice. Whatever test you take, I wouldn't take it once because a lot of people don't know this, but they take the highest scores out of the section. So if you got a higher in math and higher in English, and the two times you took it, they combine those the higher scores.
Oh,
And a lot of people
oh,
don't know
okay.
that. So
Yeah. Okay. I'm mad proud of you and stuff that you're doing. And I love you.
I love you too.
And yeah, we get a chance to build again.
Now we know how
So
to do
I'm
the
like I said,
Facebook Live.
oh yeah,
All
yes we do. All right, I'll build you later.
right. Peace.
Okay. Peace.